Madam Clerk, would you like to call the Streets Committee to order? Please call the roll.
Alderman Conway.
Present.
Alderwoman Flowers. Alderman Ordman.
Present.
Alderman Williamson.
Here.
Alderman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Moore. Alderman French.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Chairman Bosman.
Present.
8 present, you have a quorum.
We have a quorum. All right, we got Board Bill 167. We'll take first. Probably the Alderman from the 74th Ward is busy elsewhere. Well, he's not here just yet. Did he have anybody, ask anybody to handle his bill? If not, we'll leave it at that. Board 171, all of the smooth building. Is he here?
We're right there.
Okay, check off.
Yes, we do. Just go to 171, just map.
Okay.
Now see, look how Alderman do it. See, this is what good proper training. That's who trained me. I'm telling about that you do the proper way. See, that's my generation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good morning. Alderman Tom Vella representing the fine people in the 11th Ward. Board Bill 171 is a pretty simple alley vacation. There's a company there, Diversified Contractors. This particular vacation, in this instance, made perfect sense for them. It's not, it's a small hunk of ground, but permits them to be able to hook up a parking lot for their employees with their current building. And it is in what we call the patch area, which is east of Broadway. You know, in the day it was a flourishing industrial area, and I just really try to help all the people that stayed in any way that I can. So this makes good sense to me. I've walked it and driven it more than once.
Okay. Well, there are, according to this map here, several property owners. Are they in agreement with this? Have they been notified?
Yes, the trash trucks can still get in. We only cut off access to it from Vulcan, I believe. So they can get in. They can still access their alley perfectly well, Mr. Chairman.
The people will be able to. These names I see on this.
They will.
They'll be able to access. They've been notified that we're not closing it off without them knowing.
That is correct.
Are there any questions of the Alderman from the 11th?
May we see the map? Can we see
Yes.
it?
By all means. In the meantime, while we wait, Frank, you got any questions?
No, sir.
Alderman Ortman, any questions? Alderman from the 8th? No questions. You have any questions, Alderman?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No? None from the 2nd Ward? And you don't have no questions either?
No, sir. Sure don't. I apologize for the
Look ahead. We just flying.
You haven't got past it yet? Wait a minute, here's.
Alderman from the 21st.
No questions.
Now, here's where we get started.
There you go.
Right.
I got about 20.
That's one for each one of the
So,
blocks in your ward.
no, that's when I left it. It was like that. You didn't give it back to me like that, though. Okay. So only thing we're cutting off, so you can't go to Vulcan, but they'll be able to just go to what is this, Riley Street?
Riley, that
Right.
is exactly right.
Okay.
Alderman Tyus, yeah.
Right, okay.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Thank you. Those are my 20 questions.
I move that we pass Board Bill number 171 out of committee with a due pass
Second.
recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Alderman Conway.
Aye.
Alderwoman Flowers. Aye. Alderman Ortman.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Moore. Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard. Aye. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Chairman Bosman.
Aye.
9 aye votes. In fact.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alderman Roddy isn't here. Did he ask anybody to handle his bill? No. Okay. Alderwoman Young, Board Bill 160. Is she here?
No, she asked me to handle her bill for,
Okay.
and it's actually going to be presented by John Kohler from Board of Public Service.
Okay.
Good morning, Chairman Bosley and committee members. This project has been awarded federal funding through the Transportation Improvement Program called Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Funds. It's a 80% federally funded project and 20% local match, which is being provided by the Great Rivers Greenway District. It involves 5 intersections around Keener Plaza, with Broadway on the east side, Market on the south side, 7th on the west, and Chestnut on the north side. But some of the specific improvements are all traffic signal controller upgrades, new mast arms and poles, all new signal wiring conduit, and vehicle detection at every intersection approach. Also pedestrian push buttons, all new curb ramps at all quadrants of the intersections to meet all the current ADA requirements. So the total project cost is $1.5 million, with $300,000 local match coming from Great Rivers Greenway. There are no city funds involved with this project. I do have a map to distribute showing the exact
It's in the board
intersections.
bill.
Okay.
Those are color.
Oh. We got color.
Essentially, everything within the dotted lines on the roadway right-of-way around Keener will be included.
And there's no city money in here.
That's correct.
And the older lady from the 7th, she's sponsored a bill, but has she had any opportunity to have input into this? That she's totally satisfied?
Well, Mr. Chairman, she asked me to sponsor the bill
Oh,
and
well,
have
she
John
asked you to
present it
sponsor
for.
it, then I know it's all right.
She's very familiar with the project, and
All right.
supports it fully.
Are there any questions at all about Board Bill 160? Older lady?
So the improvement will be traffic signals only, and the goal of that is to do what?
The bulk of the project is the signal equipment. There are some other secondary components with the curb ramps, pedestrian facilities. But mainly it will allow traffic to be detected when they pull up to an intersection. The traffic signal could potentially change to allow those movements.
Oh, so in
So
other words,
the
it'll...
goal is to improve the traffic flow through that area of the city and also dovetail with a lot of the road directional changes that occurred as part of the City Arch River project.
So basically, if there's not much traffic, somebody pulls up to it, it'll turn.
That's right. Now, all signals will talk to each other, communicate to
So the time-
provide more efficient traffic flow. And ultimately, this congestion mitigation air quality program, the goal is to reduce the emissions and improve traffic flow, improve air quality.
Less idle time.
If there are no questions at all about Board Bill 160, I'll entertain a motion. Well, only lady from the
Yeah,
first.
thank you.
Oh, he's here, he's the first before me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the funding, John, and I know you said some of the funding will be with Great Rivers Greenway. So is it part of federal dollars also that's being
Yes.
placed in this with the matching funds?
80% is federal dollars through this Transportation Improvement Program, CMAC, and then 20%, which is the minimum local match requirement, is through Great Rivers Greenway.
Is that something similar that they did on like Skinker and Clayton Road and Alderwoman Cruison's Ward? I think it was some kind of
Yeah, that's a similar federally funded job. Those local funding sources were not Great Rivers Greenway, but it's a very similar 80 federal, 20% local match project.
So in order for Great Rivers Greenway to be part of a funding, is it some type of stipulation or rule in place where it has to be a park close by for them to help fund the streets, traffic, and improvement of streets. Because the reason why I'm asking is 'cause me and Alderman Boyd had a problem with them on Edson and Holman, and it kind of bumped out the curbs and made it real difficult for the bus to get through. Tried to get the curbs cut. They wouldn't cut the curbs because they said they didn't have any money. So we had to do a rerouting of the bus. So that's why I'm asking.
Well, as you may know, Gray Rivers Greenway has been very involved with the whole City Arch River.
Right.
They've invested
Excellent
substantially in the Leonore K. Sullivan and all the area projects that involve bicycling, pedestrian, which is all part of GRG's mission. So their board of directors feels that this project is related to that whole City Arch River, and they've allocated their funding toward that effort.
Okay. So in order for them to really invest in the street project as of this, it has to be a park close by, is what you're saying? I mean,
Well, not necessarily park, but it's got to be part of the GRG mission,
Okay.
and
The
their,
trail
what
or
their
something.
board of directors feel is a proper use and good use of the funding that GRG receives, but it's not necessarily tied to a park, even though indirectly that they want to interconnect parks and the river ring and
Biking trail, walking trail, okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
I have.
Can I ask?
Okay. Now, did you say this was a grant?
that's correct.
And who applied for the grant?
The City of St. Louis, through my office at the Board of Public Service.
Okay. And did someone bring this to your attention?
Yes.
Who is that? Could
That
you
would
tell me
be
about that
Street
process?
Director Todd Walterman.
Okay, so these type of grants come before Mr. Walterman's desk, and then he tells you about them, and you apply for it. Is that the process?
Well, there's various processes.
But in this particular one?
All these transportation improvement program applications come through the Board of Public Service.
I understand that.
And how they initiate could be business groups, could be other departments, other SOBC.
But I'm asking about this particular one. Not
This particular
Right.
one, I became aware of it through Street Director, through his involvement
Okay.
with Great Rivers Greenway and City Arch River.
Okay, and this type of traffic control, is it located any place else in the city?
Yes, we've got quite a few signal interconnect projects that are active now and have been funded through similar projects in the past.
Can you tell me some of them, please?
We've got Van de Venner, we've got,
Van de Venner, where?
uh,
Forest Parkway? No?
it's pretty much the whole stretch. Todd, you might be able to.
I believe the last project ran from Forest Park north to St. Louis Avenue, and they upgraded those signals. And then they did,
Now, are those the interconnectivity ones, though? Because when I came here years ago, we were just doing the ones up Natural Bridge, and they're not interconnected. And in fact, there's some work going on in Natural Bridge right now, but I don't think it's the same thing. So these actually are the ones so if you drive up or if somebody walks up, is that what it does?
yeah, they're interconnected with fiber
Okay,
that communicates with them.
okay.
West Florissant was recently done from the city limits in, and I'm not sure the eastern boundary. Across the highway, I think.
Yeah.
And so that section was done.
Do we look for places where there's high traffic or high pedestrian? Is that what we're
Mainly
looking
the
for?
larger roads, the roads that are carrying the significant traffic volumes, would classified as principal arterials or minor arterials, where we have a lot of signalization. We want the traffic to be able to flow smoothly without stopping intermittently.
And will this, the way it's set up, so if there's more traffic, will it give it a longer time for people to, let's just say you're making a left turn and you find out you need a longer time, does that automatically do that, or do we still have to go out and reprogram that? We're having a lot of left turns and we're not letting people go fast enough, and we're blocking traffic someplace. Will that do that, or?
The system isn't that completely automatic as
Okay.
you suggest. It takes, there's tools in the system that help us be that smart,
Right.
or get near that smart, but it's not that smart.
Okay.
That is a whole other set of equipment that takes us into almost Star Wars ages, that we need to be able to fix what we have and,
I don't think that's bad if we can self-adjust, okay? You know, we put something up, and then you don't, all of a sudden now you got, maybe just doing rush hour. Now you got everybody's making this left turn that normally rest of the day, they're not making a left turn, and all of a sudden people get off and it's blocking traffic or whatever. So I was just wondering if we had gotten that far
The
yet.
best part of this equipment allows multiple programming periods in the
Okay.
same equipment. Previously, we had 2 AM, PM. Now we're able to do midday, we're able to do special event programming, where we're doing a lot of this at Grand Center. You know, when everybody's
Right.
at Grand Center.
When they
all
go
wait
to
at
the box,
same
right.
time,
Right.
So we're able to green it up. So we're doing more special event type things, trying to get the masses out and green things up for an exit. That's the kind of thing this equipment allows us to do. Yeah, we have to program it that way, we have to set it all up.
Okay.
And then put it in place.
Well, does it gather, and one other question if you don't mind. So, but does it gather information at all about traffic patterns and things like that?
Not necessarily patterns, but it has the ability to count the number of vehicles.
Okay.
And that helps the engineer to the time. So you can put these sensor pucks in the left turn lane and say, hey, wow, we had this many people making lefts at this time, which helps us do smarter traffic work.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Alderman Conway?
No, I'm sorry.
Alderwoman Flowers? No questions. Hartman? No questions. Williamson? Alderman Boyd has something.
No, I didn't.
You did? Okay. And Moore's not here. Alderman French? No questions. Okay. All the Lady Ties has already had to say so. And Alderwoman Howard.
I was wondering, and this kind of pivots off of Alderman Tice's question. How was this area selected? Was it because Great River Greenways, or was this, just because you're tearing up and...
So oftentimes we don't have the match. And this project was presented and it was going to impact the signals. And we have pedestrian concerns down there and we're always wanting to add countdown heads and all this stuff. So I said, hey, why don't you do this? And one of the big gives we get at the street department is they put new conduits under the road, new wires. We're dealing with wires that are 50 years old, and that's what causes a lot of our failures. So as part of the city participating, we get brand new equipment, brand new plastic conduits with new wires in them, and it will be state of the art. Crossing Market Street's kind of tough, it's not very pet friendly, so we'll be increasing, adding a couple intersections there. It's about moving people, it's about nowadays looking at all the modes.
And you had a person willing to pay the...
They had the cash, they had the 300,000, they were probably gonna spend that or a little more anyway, modifying the existing. So we went to the grants we could get all of them to make my guys' jobs easier.
And I guess also because it's a high-traffic area, a lot of events and so forth, and a lot of programming. Okay. I was just curious, just in case something would come my way.
These funds are out there. We just
You'll
need to
make it
find
happen.
20%.
It is gonna come your way. That's
So there's, like I said, there's 2 things that happen. The money doesn't come quick, so you can't turn a project like this in a year, it's
Yeah, I
multiple
know.
years. And you gotta have that 20%, you gotta compete. So, it's not all just
The
being
wheels
out.
move slowly.
Right.
I gotcha.
Merci.
Thank you. That's all.
Are there any other questions on Board Bill 160?
It looks like
Not, I'll entertain a
So
motion.
moved. Second. Previous row.
Request for the previous roll.
that's what previous one.
No objection. Board Bill 160 is
No, I'm like, what?
committee.
What's he calling me for?
Did Alderman Roddy have anybody to look for?
We have someone call.
He asked me,
Ask you, Alderman.
did you want to handle it?
No, I was gonna have someone try to get it.
Dave just, told me that he would like me to handle it for him, which I have no problem. Board Bill 167 is becoming a standard residential parking bill, which, some of us have these problems in our neighborhoods where when development happens, like in the Grove area along Manchester, that's where Alderman Roddy's experienced a lot of economic development growth and parking has become an issue. Some of us have large churches in our neighborhood and it's become an issue. So he's introducing this bill to limit parking to basically residents and their guests in the 4500 block of Gibson, which is just south of Highway 40 between Taylor and Kings Highway.
This is so that when people come in for those businesses, they don't block the people who live there.
Right.
Are there any questions on Board Bill 167? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So move. Previous row.
Previous roll. 167 down. Alderman Conway, 169.
Okay. Board Bill 169, I know that Street Director Walterman is here, is some final street vacation legislation needed so that they can demolish the Kings Highway Bridge and rebuild it.
I'm opposed to that. I love that bridge.
Again, the city is not paying the 20% on that one.
I love that bridge.
The state, when the bridges fell,
Kings Highway Bridge. It's amazing. Like overpass. Just joking.
the camel hump. But the Kings Highway Bridge, I think when the state rated the highways, the bridges from like 0 to 100, I think that got a 5.
Yeah,
A -5, okay. So anyway, it's gonna fall, but,
Well, I can't live there. It's just giving me a hard time. I live south.
Union Pacific is paying the city's match. They have the railroad tracks underneath. And this is the final piece of legislation. The city tells me, it's Todd's group, tells me that, demolition will start in January.
Here's in your ward, right?
It is in the 8th ward.
And you don't have any
My state
problem
guy.
with it.
I'm going to have problems with it because there are going to be 40-something thousand cars rerouted a day. So that's not going to make the alderman's life easy.
I like it because it's going to mean less traffic at my end of Kings Highway.
I'm supporting the bill, baby. I want this thing done and over with.
How long was construction?
Actually-
That's on Board Bill 169. All of them from the 21st.
How long was construction
Shaw,
last?
it's Shaw. So not
It's
just
city
Kings Highway.
time,
This was Shaw.
which
This
is
Shaw.
never on time,
Here on the highway.
but
I know
I,
they added a
And
few
not
months.
Shaw's Gardens,
I think last time he told me 14.
Costa right here.
So you won't be able to drive all the way down Kings Highway for
And so right
a year
here,
and a
you
half?
see these things right here.
Absolutely.
They gonna clear this up, this up, this up.
I mean, I don't have any choice. This is, I'd rather not do it, but I don't have a
The only
choice.
good thing is they have those overpasses to the hospital on Boyle, or those 2 new overpasses they put in,
Right.
which will help alleviate it as soon as people figure out where they are.
Well, the bicyclists don't want me to, run more traffic over Tower Grove. So, I can't win, but I got to do it.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
It would be worse if the bridge just fell.
Alderman from the 22nd.
So tell me what the detour route, how's that gonna?
The main detour route is you will come up to Kings Highway and O'Connell's Restaurant, which is on the corner just immediately south of 44. Part of this plan is to relocate Shaw Boulevard around to the south side of O'Connell's Restaurant. So then you'll be able to make a left turn onto Shaw, but it will also line up Shaw with Shaw on the hill so that you'll be able to go straight back and forth. So-
They're gonna line
Well, they're going to move the Shaw Boulevard. This is O'Connell. Shaw goes
Right.
up here. You can't make a left.
Exactly.
So what they're going to do is they've gotten the ground and worked with all that it's going to come around the other side of the building and line up with Shaw on the hill.
Oh.
So you'll be able to come this way, make a left
And then
before.
there'll be a Y right there. So O'Connell's will sit in the middle?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, he was not easy to deal with.
I'm just interesting.
He got everything he wanted. I mean, think about
I
it. He
don't
could never
blame
have
him.
customers
I don't blame
come in
him.
from, from the other direction. So the official detour will be then down Shaw and over Vandeventer. We fully expect, human beings are like ants, and they are going to, go over Hampton. They'll go to Kings Highway. They'll come over Tower Grove. And that's just the way it is.
So who owns the land south of O'Connell's?
There's a variety of property owners there, and each of them we've negotiated with. If we needed the ground, we have
It's
the
all
ground.
vacant land right now, right? Or is
Yeah,
there a
yeah, that's-
building?
No,
Right.
there's some buildings and vacant ground, but we've negotiated and received all of everything that we need with respect to those properties, except for some of these, for this, which is some more rights of way that we needed.
Go on to the hill.
And
So some buildings will be demolished to make room for a new road.
Todd, I don't,
I think there's only one building. It's the one to the
To the
east of
south.
O'Connell's. That
Okay.
building's in the way. There's no other buildings that get impacted.
That's all I have. Thank you.
So what about the gardens building back there? That won't go back that far there?
No, it will go up past there's some train tracks.
Yeah, I know where they are.
Okay, so right past the train tracks, the new street will loop.
And then hit Vanderbilt and hit Kings Highway.
It'll
Just-
loop to Kings Highway.
And
And
come
then if
back.
you're coming back the
And
other
you'll
way,
get back
it'll
on the street again.
it'll get you back on Shaw, right at the train
Well, the
track.
donut place ought to be happy. Gringo Jones ought to be happy. They're gonna get increase in traffic, so they'll.
It's already a mess.
I know, but they'll have lots more people coming by. But this is a good place to start begging. I'll send all my beggars there.
If there are no other questions on Board Bill 169, Alderman from the,
Just one. One is, they're scheduled to tear down the old Kings Highway Bridge. Do we have a scheduled date?
The one that we're talking about?
Well, the one by 44th, that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
In January?
Okay.
I would call it mid to late February.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
So that
Well, then
means-
Todd,
March or
I would,
April.
my election's in March, so why don't we just
I'd say
wait?
it should be about mid-March.
March. March.
I'm okay with that. As a matter of fact, I can hold this bill for a month. Okay,
No, that will not
Just
do
to be
anybody
shot,
good.
but just to be on the safe side, let's make it after April, first Tuesday in April.
no, we have to get going on this bridge no matter what. I mean, it has to be done. And it would be worse if it fell. Because then nothing goes the train. That train track, and that's why Union Pacific is their main line. And they're paying the $5 million match.
They should. They are horrible to work with.
Amen.
You should make them pay to $10 million. Okay. Good.
All right.
Okay. I like that.
no other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion on Board
So
Bill
moved.
169.
Second. Previous row.
Two, request for previous roll, 169.
Okay.
Yes.
With, 125.
Do like Joanne Wayne did, sit on Union and make them do the bridge.
Alderman Conway.
Okay. Board Bill number 125, I have a committee substitute, and I would move that,
Where is that?
We don't have it.
They emailed it to us.
It's not.
I'm on it. I didn't know it was going to be a substitute or an amendment, but
We need to kill your bill. I'm sorry, Jeff, but your rules does not work. When we get to 5,000 entries.
oh, down right here. Okay.
Pass those three.
Yes. Okay. I would move that we adopt the committee substitute 125.
So moved.
Second.
Is that second?
Second.
Previous roll.
Wait a
Previous
minute.
roll. Okay, so one.
He's not,
Then we-
he's
It's for discussion.
discussion only. He
That
didn't
ain't
say
what
for
he said.
discussion. I know.
What that does, it puts it in the
Not the motion he said adopted.
adopted.
So does that mean we passed it?
Alderman Conway?
We're gonna put this on the table before.
That's
But
not
what
what
he's
he
saying-
said.
You need to say for
What did you say,
discussion
Alderman?
only.
Well, I'll
What
say
you
for
wanna do
discussion
with that
only, it's
phrase?
no big deal, but we have to substitute this in for 125.
Yeah, well, see, the motion should be, you wanna place Board Bill 125 committee substitute before the committee.
All right.
A second.
So you gonna withdraw the previous motion?
I consider them one and the same, but I'll withdraw the previous one.
Are there any objections to it? Okay, then 125 committee
That's good. I
substitute
like the-
is
that's
before
right.
us now.
Okay. What committee substitute for 125 is doing is the street department in their infinite wisdom had gotten an increase of $100 per pole for, like, when you put up those banners like McKinley Heights neighborhood or Shaw neighborhood. They wanted $100 a pole and then $50 a year from you to maintain that. But in the 8th Ward, the Shaw neighborhood likes doing those, and they do the banners, and they maintain them. The city's explanation of why it was so high is that $50 a year then, is that some neighborhood groups, some business organizations don't maintain or take them down, and they get all ratty, and then the city has to go in there and do that. And with respect to neighborhood organizations, What I've done is amended it so that neighborhood organizations or community organizations would have a cheaper fee to maintain those. And I can tell you, like in the Shaw neighborhood, they're ordering new banners, but they're ordering 50% more than they needed, and that's what they did years and years ago. So that if one does get ratted out or unsightly, then they'll replace that. That is the crux of the bill.
Well, does this in any way change the law that if a banner goes up and it does not have a permit, the street department now has the authority, the right, and the obligation to go and take it down?
To my knowledge, no. And
Does this interfere with that at all?
I do not believe this interferes with any of our operation or our permitting process at all. No, it does not.
And this is the language that the street department gave me as compared to what was in the original bill.
And any banners that are put up on these light standards shall be removed by the street department if there's not a permit for it. Is that correct?
That's why they have the higher fee in. I don't know that it's a shall, but
The higher fee, I assume, is to have the street department not spending their money to take your banner down. See, but when somebody puts it up there and the street department has to come and remove it, is there a fine for that?
Chairman, we get very few people that put them up without a permit. It's more the people that put them up and don't
Never take them
maintain
down, and they
And
wait.
that's-
And that's why the fee was thrown in there in 2010.
But I still can't get some of mine down. They're ready. Okay, all right.
Me with one of my favorite
Make 'em go
people.
away.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
more discussion on.
I'm sorry.
All right, any other questions or comments on committee substitute
Nobody likes
125?
those banners.
Alderman from the 22nd.
Yes, since the street department kind of recommend this language, I want to ask Todd, refundable maintenance deposit per 10 poles, why per 10 poles? So if you have 15 poles, you just get $100, but if you put up on 30 poles, you get,
I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me.
where I circled it right there. Because you get half your money back if you're, I guess, a corporation that puts them up, if you take them down. But that suggests that you only get $100 back per 10 poles, which is basically your $10 back, I guess. So that ain't a bad deal. So if you take them down, it's basically for free.
Well, the way I read that is they're still gonna pay a $100 maintenance fee. They're paying 10 to use the pole.
And then
every year.
$100.
And then the $100 we sit on until they make it right.
That's no longer.
Delete it,
So we'll take those 10 down.
It would be
But it
deleted with this
says
bill.
per 10 poles.
Right.
What if they have 15? They only get $100. They only pay $100 period, is that what it is?
No.
Or is it,
No, I believe it reads that every 10 poles you gotta pay $100. So if they got 15, they're gonna wind up paying 200.
okay, well, that's why I was.
That's the way I would interpret it. I'm not aware.
But if you, let me ask you this, so if it's a corporation and they put up 15 poles,
Yeah.
they have to put $1,500 up, right? And if they take them down, they get $750 back.
So let's go back to this now. This new language only impacts community organizations. Okay, there's quite a few of them that are put up by commercial organizations, and they would still abide by the earlier part,
$100.
where it's $100 per banner.
But they get half back when they take them down.
Yes, they do.
Okay, so now let's talk about the community organization. So explain that again, how that works. It's $10 per.
So let's say a community organization wants to put 15 banners up.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna pay $150 to use the poles every year.
Okay.
And they're gonna pay $200, that's a refundable deposit for us to manage them. That's the way I interpret it.
The whole thing's refundable.
The whole 200. So they're gonna write us a check for $350
I got
to
you.
hang those 50 poles, 50.
And that's for each year?
Okay.
It's
Each time the polls go, the signs go up?
$150 per year.
Okay.
The refundable thing is a one-time shot while they have them up there until they discontinue.
Okay. Now, if it's up there 2 years, then they owe twice that much.
They'll pay $150 twice to use the pole and the $200 only once. Correct.
It's still expensive.
Alderwoman from the second.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure I understand. So it's $10 a pole, and then there's $100 refundable deposit. And at the end of the year, you'll get the deposit back if you take it down, the $100 back. Okay.
It probably won't work that way, because most of these stay up for longer than a year. But if it would, yes, that would be true.
But if it stayed up for 2 years, then they'll be charged $10 again,
Yes.
and then they have to send another $100 deposit?
The deposit would remain.
Okay, okay, all right. I got you. Thank you.
Alderman from the night.
So if they don't pay the second year, then you start taking the money out of the deposit.
No, take them down.
Well, I don't know that they take them down.
Yeah, we don't get very aggressive. But you know,
I've never seen them out there taking them down, but, you know, I've seen neighborhood associations put them up, and they don't put them up for a year. You know, they put them up for the lifetime span of the banner.
most of our taking down is complaint driven, they look ratty.
Yeah, it's when they're falling apart.
Exactly. And this idea of giving this money is they get a little ownership of what they put down without harming them.
I'm just trying to be clear, I'm not,
Yeah, no, I know. We don't aggressively go after banners and, you know, maintain them and chase it down.
but if there was one that was all raggedy and people think it's gonna fall on someone's head or car, then we would go out and take it down. And then they would not get their deposit back.
Let's back up. So our first call is gonna be to the permittee saying, hey,
Take care of
this has
it.
failed, this has failed. Can you get somebody out there in the next week? And we listen to their response. Depending on what they say, we respond accordingly. So we always try to give the permittee a heads up and, hey, look, we don't wanna get involved.
Are there any other questions on Board Bill? All the lady from the first? Oh, I'm sorry.
I guess I'm just, there's some lack of clarity here. It'll be $10 per pole, $100 per 100 poles. So they pay the $10 per pole every year and you bill them part of that. In other words, if I've got 100 poles, you're gonna bill me $100. You know, I put one up now, next year.
$1,000.
You know, 100 polls.
Okay, but if I'm a community organization, I only pay 10, right?
That's still,
First time.
that comes to
Per
$1,000.
pole. So 10 times 10 is 100, yeah. Okay.
But she
Now, one, I'm not quite sure, a community organization consists of, is that a church?
said-
Is
That's
that,
right.
you
That's
know,
exactly-
which,
That was my thing.
who are the community organizations? I mean, I could say I'm a community organization, I've got 5 kids.
But you'd have to be
So
You'd
you
have to
wanna
be
hang
registered with SLDC.
I wanna have the Howard banner out in front of my house?
I've never had a family want to hang a banner with me.
But I mean, I'm just asking, because what do you consider? It doesn't really define a community organization, and, you know, is that a business organization? You know, how, you know, there's a business in the community, and they do business with the community. So how do you define who they are? Because, you know,
I think
you know,
if you look
$10 or $100, I'm gonna become a community organization.
If you look down on line number 20, it kind of tells you what that is. It said community organization shall be defined as a non-governmental, non-profit organization or participating members of the community,
Okay.
such as neighborhood groups, churches, service organizations.
I just didn't
or
read
social
far enough,
clubs.
Mr. Chairman, I am so sorry.
Okay.
But, and then I guess, you know, it seems, do you bill the people, actually, if they don't? Because I always thought once they were up, you kind of left them alone.
Every year they have it. And you say you thought it, this first, only changed in 2010. So there was no charging before 2010. That's the ordinance that the language is changed.
Right, to
This is
$100.
stuff that's fairly fresh.
Right.
It's only 4 years old.
Okay.
There is
So-
one question. Oh, no, you finish first.
So are there, I mean, many that use the $100, you know, like a business? I guess there are some big businesses that will pay the $100 a pole.
Oh, yeah, no, there's quite a few of them that.
Cardinals, would they be considered paying that?
The Cardinals are in an exclusive area downtown that's managed by the Downtown Partnership.
And they,
Yeah, in the Central Business District down here.
so they get,
They
they-
monitor those.
oh, okay, they handle them themselves.
All your bid guys, they typically, your SLU, your Wells Fargo, those kind of people, they take care of their stuff. They take a lot of pride and they spend a lot of money on it. And we don't have issues with them.
But they pay their $100 per pole and, okay. I'm just curious. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Are there any other questions? All the ladies from the front.
Okay, how long, so they can keep these banners up as long until they become ratty? Do they have to take them down when they become ratty? So they say they kept paying their money in, but they look horrible. Then what do we do?
We will send them a letter and tell them to take them down.
Okay.
We will call and we will communicate with them.
And is there a maximum number of poles that someone can have? And I'll give you an example. Up and down Euclid, a church has from Martin Luther King to Natural Bridge. And so the other churches are like, why are they way down here? And the neighborhood didn't want them. They don't like all that junk. So who makes the decisions that they go up on there, on the light poles?
So it's approved through a Board of Public Service permit, and the street department, myself, is the one that weighs in on it. And, yeah, we received, a request, a complaint, a concern, we would adjust to it. So, if somebody has something like that, send it to me.
So, but what I'm saying from up front, so if they said, I want to buy every pole in the Kingsway East neighborhood and put these banners up, they're a church, they could do that right now without it, if nobody's made a complaint.
Your thing seems a little extreme. I'm not.
But I'm just.
But we would look at it. I mean, that sounds well. The biggest one we had was prior to Alderman Oglesby coming in. The ward did like a whole neighborhood, literally hundreds of them throughout. They represented the neighborhood.
Oh, but that's different. But I'm talking about this particular thing. Is I got a church, and we never had them on Euclid. We don't put them on Euclid. So when we saw them going up on Euclid, we were all irritated because there was nothing that was said to the neighborhood at all. And then all of a sudden, all these banners go up. And we live in a residence, so we're not looking for that. We don't have our own neighborhood things up there. And also, I have a problem because I think that's really a separation of church and state. And how dare they hang it on the back end of my street, because maybe I don't believe in that church, and when you do that, you open up a big can of worms for everything else that wants to go up. So I want to know what are our limitations, and I really think that church should not be part of this right here. So I have a question with that.
Is this something new on Euclid? Or is it
No. It's been there for about it was put there when the former alderperson was there, and so it's all up and down, and so people always ask me, why are these things up here? And how long will they be up here? And I just haven't bothered it, but since it's here, this is a good time for me to address this.
Certainly, and I can look into that permit.
And do we have a limit, is what I'm saying. And if we don't, to me, we should have a limit on their area, because otherwise they can just mark a whole area, and it's like free advertisement, very cheap, okay? And we ought to also have a limit on how long, I don't care that they're up there, unless it's a neighborhood group, because to me that's advertising, and we work real hard on Kings Highway, Natural Bridge. I'm fighting that all the time, so this just to me is another way to go around what we're fighting. So in fact, I'm going to introduce an overlay about any kind of banners, everything, because I don't want that, and the people don't want that, and we like our green space, and we're not looking for everybody to advertise. So how do we prevent that? To me, this is just making it much cheaper for them to be able to do that, and I don't like that.
Why? I could. I think that's easy enough to address. I've been doing this job for 9 years now, and I've never heard this concern. And we typically, we ride by the seat of our pants. We try to do things right. And we typically do what people want to do along their property. Okay, so that Anheuser-Busch owns all this stuff.
Right.
We let them go on all the time.
His property, right.
And it would make sense to do it along the church. If we have churches that are going out in front of the churches, that's our bad. We need to look at that a little closer.
Well, if
and
you go down,
we can address.
you go down Euclid right now, you'll see Earl Nance's church starts from Martin Luther King all the way down to Natural Bridge, hangs on Maffett Place. We don't let anything on Maffett Place, but yet they're hanging there. Nobody talked to Maffett Place. Nobody talked to Northland, Wabata, any of those places, and nobody wanted those there. And so I'm saying that we have a problem with that because everybody is not a ad. We just took out down the billboards on Lotus and Kings Highway. My neighborhood group's been working on that for years. We're not an ad. We want to be green. That whole green thing that we just talked about, that's what we want to do. Right, so we don't want that. I'm working on taking down several other billboards. We want, when you drive down the boulevard of Kings Highway, that is a boulevard. And that is, if you go to Virginia, you can't put up anything up and down there. So I'm going to be opposed to this because to me, it allows too much. I'm not mad at the community groups that want to do it, but we need more restrictions on how it's done and a time limitation. And I will agree with the Alderwoman from the 14th. So now I'm going to be some kind of community organization that says not-for-profit association of participating members of a community. What does that mean? I'm serious. What really does that mean?
We'll look in your.
No, what does a not-for-profit association of participating, I can't talk at these things, participating members of a community? I'm a nonprofit then, because I'm not a not-profit of a participating members of a community. It doesn't say community organization. It just says of a community. Are we supposed to have organization here?
And I agree with the idea of having boundaries. In other words, if they're on, Delore by St. John's Church,
Right.
Why would they run all the way down to the
Exactly.
sideway? I mean, we need to have some boundaries for specific organizations because, if it's a neighborhood organization, let them put them all over the neighborhood if that's what
Right,
the
but that's a
neighborhood
neighborhood,
chooses
that's
to do.
exactly right.
But if it's a specific, church or a social club or
Right,
a
exactly.
fraternal organization, I'm
Do you
sure
want that to
don't
hang,
want,
right, hanging at the end of your corner or whatever? Right,
the Masons banners hanging all over.
Exactly.
Right, but all of those groups have that right now, and then they didn't even pay for it until 2010.
Right.
but
The,
now, but doesn't it stop them now, because now they're paying $100. If we're going to make this down to $10, that's going to make it too easy for them to do, and I think we need to clean this up before we pass this out seriously.
Let me finish here.
Actually, I had the floor, so you let me finish, and then when it's your turn, you can address what I'm saying. Isn't that correct? Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Defer to the chair.
Thank you. No, he gave me the floor, so I have it. So anyway, that was one of my questions. My other question was what the Alderwoman from the 14th had said, which is the whole thing about putting a church in with neighborhood organizations. I have some real questions about that, separation of church and state. And my last question was, with the specific geographically defined neighborhood. So you can only put these banners up, if you're a statewide or citywide or national level, then you wouldn't be able to put these banners up, right? Is that the way I understand it? So if I am like State Farm Insurance, I wouldn't be able to put something up like that, right? So it has to be something that's within the neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay. And I had I'm still also a little stuck on your payment plan. I thought I heard you say, so $10 per pole, and then so $10 would be $100. If you did a 15 poles, would that be the $150 plus the $100 deposit plus another $100 deposit?
Yes.
So any fraction thereof of the next 10 gives you a $100 deposit. That's what I was trying to make sure, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, okay, so 1 to 10 is a $100 deposit, 11 to 20 is another $100, like that, right? Okay, I think that's good. Okay, so I just want to say, this is my questions are ended, but again, I'm opposed to this. I think this needs to be limited. I like that it's expensive because it keeps people from doing this, and I think that when we are going to lower this, we're going to find all kind of unintended consequences without putting some limits about where they could put this. If it's got a motorcycle club and it's right in front of the motorcycle club, that's one thing. But if you're going to let that motorcycle club now be on all of my corners, I don't want that, okay?
Alderman from the 8th.
All right, well, a couple of things. One is, I know historically when like the Botanical Garden would want to put them up, they, I had to send Todd a letter or whatever. I mean, they would ask before they approved it. There are no restrictions right now. Your churches that you're unhappy with are paying the $50, which is okay. My point is, I actually preferred the original bill. And if you were to look at the language on the original bill, it's way more straightforward. I was doing this as a concession for the street department. The original bill only allows neighborhood organizations that are 501c3s the $10 per pole. So,
I like
So what I'm going to do is ask that we don't adopt a committee substitute and go back to the original board bill that Mr. Sweeney drafted for me.
I like that much better.
So
I think what we
Withdraw, you have to
do-
I withdraw my motion to adopt a committee substitute for
Carol,
125.
ask something. I guess, you know, what I'm saying is, and I have this in my, this is part of the reason I have banners is that aren't maintained. You know, we have little organizations that pop up and then they kind of fall off. They don't become 501c3s, and they get all fired up and they put up these banners. We had the Bevo Business Organization, or the Gravois Business Organization, 10, 15 years ago, and those things are still kind of flapping in the breeze out there. And somebody, and I'm not saying, I don't know who it was, told me, well, we gotta call the organization that put them up first. Well, good luck with that.
There's no phone.
Well, there's nobody. I mean, it's kind of like there's a few people left from it, but who's gonna, you know,
This is
they
a
don't.
permit fee they have.
So what I'm saying is if you do have a legitimate 501c3 or even a bona fide religious organization that is, you know, I mean, I'm not talking about the corner church that pops up as there one Sunday and gone the next, but, you know, I think you have to kind of limit it. If you put it out there to everybody, you know, you're gonna have this same thing where people, you know, they have an organization for a year or two and they get all fired up and they gather some money and they have these put up and then, you know, nobody's there to maintain them and nobody's there to say take them down, nobody, you know, and it becomes part of the city's maintenance program. And, you know, there is a cost and probably what, you know, this organization I know paid nothing probably at the time. They just got the rules to put them up there. So, you know, that's the you know, the upshot of what happens if you don't have legitimate organizations that are at least registered 501c3s and somebody's, I guess, monitoring it. And then I had one more question. Does this only pertain to the cloth banners, or is this, you know, any banner that's put on the poles? Like, you know, the ones over at the hill, they have the red, white, and green, those little signs. Does that pertain to that? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. They're like the plastic, like.
They have smaller, they don't
Yeah,
have,
they
they
have
got
the
little
smaller, kinda
ones.
like
They
a
don't,
Still banners though,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Are those, does that still apply to that? And then what about the permanent banners that they
Yeah.
put like on south?
It applies to the permanent ones as well.
And they
That's
pay
something
every,
new. Yeah, that's something new, and we haven't really, we haven't had any failures yet.
right,
But I'm fearing that the failures are gonna be greater on them when they do occur.
right.
Those are big, heavy metal things.
See, and I think those are things we need to consider more, you know, because of, one, you have on this other secondary, the substitute, you've got all these people that,
I'm gonna withdraw the substitute and we're
I
gonna go
got
back.
that. I
Okay,
got
we're gonna go back and if you guys wanna beat up on your churches and that, you can
No,
beat
we're not beating up on the churches.
Okay, so I'm gonna withdraw the motion to adopt the committee substitute.
I don't think we need a motion for that.
Because we were just considering it.
Okay, well, that was for discussion.
Put that for discussion.
So then, what I would do, then I move that we pass board bill number 125 out of committee with a two-pass recommendation.
second,
Are there any questions on Board Bill 125, Alderman from the 22nd?
Did you have?
No.
Okay. My question is, okay, in the new bill, so you pay $10 per pole, and you just renew every year, but there's no need to do a deposit.
There still is a deposit, I'm only changing that. I'm changing the annual price.
Well, how much is the deposit? $50 per pole?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the question for Ty, correct me if I'm wrong, Ty, you can't put these up unless you have insurance, right? Don't
Correct.
you have to carry insurance on it? And that's just a policy you have, that's not in the ordinance, right?
Correct, that's part of the BPS approval process.
Okay.
Requires you to have liability insurance to cover the city.
Typically, those who qualify for this insurance is some legitimate entity. So like a block unit, Chancellor, how would that
Any
work?
neighborhood organization can get that insurance. They carry the
Like-
insurance and they just get a deal from their guy or the rider. It's not very much.
Okay,
Not a
so,
lot of liability with it.
so Alderman Conway, for my purposes, and I'm trying to establish a business association to get some things going on, MLK, and maybe they organize, but they're not a 501c3, and maybe they don't want to be. So,
Then you go the $50 route that's out there right now. That was passed.
but it's not a thriving business district, and just to jumpstart things that are going on over there.
You can work out a deal with the alderwoman from the first and figure out how you want.
14th and the other people, everybody don't want that.
You know.
We can make it just for the 22nd ward.
No, and it's not about, where I was going.
No, I know. Originally I was like, what? You know, that was just like way too much. And they have signs up there, and the Shaw neighborhood's just been very good about maintaining them, and they're out of signs. So
That's good when you got a good organization that does what they're supposed to. But the reason why we have speeding rules is not for the people who drive the speed, it's for the people who don't.
And then, my perspective is the committee substitute was the street department's, way to try to attempt to address besides just neighborhood associations.
Which I think, has some fairness in it, because if Laclede School, for example, wanted to put something around their school, around Kennerly and Goodfellow and Maffitt, I couldn't see residents in the neighborhood being upset about that. You want to promote their school and education, but they would have to pay $10. So I kind of like the other one,
the
but I'm going
schools,
to
I
vote
think,
for
are
this one. I
exempt.
mean,
I think they have an exemption.
do they?
Schools have an exemption.
Don't
It's
say it
not a
in here.
501c3, but they have something else.
They're not a 501.
like-
I thought they were.
What, the schools?
Yeah.
Well, then they wouldn't be, that's what I'm saying, then if they're not,
okay,
they
that's
would
right.
already
So they'd be the
be
$10.
covered, right.
Okay.
So the only thing we're talking, do you want the motorcycle, and I'm just using the motorcycle.
Absolutely not. You have
Exactly.
an excellent point. I mean, that's some long-term planning that we need to look at, because that's an excellent point. You wouldn't want one business, going all up and down a boulevard, and then you have 30 other businesses, and it just look like this
Then
ice
after a
cream
while-
shop.
Exactly.
You're the only one that's around and advertising.
Go to my strip mall at 5100 Natural Bridge and see what I built originally and now under Troop with 5,000 signs in every window.
Yeah, that's a zoning problem, ain't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
the zone was the Alderman.
That's all I have.
No, it wasn't like that.
Ask for clarification for one thing.
Okay, Alderman from the 21st.
Yeah, so going back to Alderman Boyd's question, the way I read this is that a 501c3 would not have to pay a deposit. That's the way I read it.
So I read it too, but.
Yeah, so they would simply pay $10 per pole per year, which is fine. I think the 501c3 should do a lot of good for the neighborhood, and we shouldn't pay a lot. So that's the way I read it.
Because it's confusing. A portion of the $50 fee, well, if you paid $100, that makes sense. You get a portion, you get $50 of the $100, but you don't get $50 of 10.
Right, I had Dave Sweeney draft that.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, the fee for the banner permit shall be $100 per pole, and the permit shall be valid. A portion of the banner so you get $50 back. So you will be paying $50 a year for.
So it's like the fee for the normal fee is $100 and $50 is refundable.
Right.
Then it sets a new fee for nonprofits,
For $10,
nothing being refundable.
because you're only paying $10.
I mean, I'm fine with it, but I just, just for clarification.
That $50 refundable after the banner has been removed and no damage done to the pole? See, that's not in the bill.
It's not a straight, it's not
Well,
straight.
We need to clean this up.
We need to clean that up. It needs to be in there. Because if it's not in there,
Well, that's the problem with the original
Yeah, that's the
Right.
current law.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess.
Have you ever returned any $50?
Well, they just start.
Well, my-
He doesn't look happy about returning.
If they don't call me, no.
Getting money back from the government is usually not as easy.
Take this and with the street department, clean it up a little bit.
Well, I think we're okay with it if it's just $10 per pole with no deposit.
I have another
Lady,
question, and this is, one, we have 501c3s, are those churches? Do they all have 501c3s down?
Most
They don't
of
need
them.
one.
So would they would have to pay the $100 per pole?
Unless you change the law.
Well, I would like to include churches, but.
Well, no, I'm,
also-
forget the churches.
You want to make them free for everybody?
Okay, I'll just do my overlay and I'll be peace out, okay? No signs anyplace.
You thought this was gonna be simple.
I just want the neighborhood organizations to get the $10.
No, he wants emos to do it.
No, they don't have any.
And I guess the other thing is limiting, the number, if they're not a neighbor, there needs to be, I think, something to address that if they're not a neighborhood organization. But anyway.
This
that
is
would
just
be
for
another-
neighborhood groups.
Okay. That would be
You can
another-
change I was shocked at how much those were when I was working on this proposal.
Because we used to not let them put anything up, so I think it was to discourage people from doing just what we're talking about now. If Dan McGuire was here, we would be hearing it right now, okay?
Right, and I mean, and we'd had that, and I'd gone through, picked up the remains, but I can tell you, like, when the Botanical Garden would make their application, they would contact us and give us the location so that we would sign off as a community. And that's just something that the street department should, like, if someone's doing, my suggestion is on a going forward basis, Todd, if someone is applying for more than their adjacent property and isn't a neighborhood group, you should notify the alderman.
And you should limit it. You can only go so many feet away from your property. That's what it should be limited.
If I could,
Yes.
I agree with Conway. I was also thinking that, we always typically in our department reviews, look at whose property it impacts. And I think internally in the street department, we can only allow these permits, these banners to be on their adjacent property unless they get approval from the other property owners.
Well, good. Come and take all them other ones
I
down.
think that would kind of buy into what you want to do.
Right.
It makes kind of sense.
Right.
When we change parking restrictions in front of properties, we do it on what the owner really wants.
Right.
So, I have no problem implementing that in my department, that we kind of control these things.
In other
And we
words,
will
by
be-
policy.
Yeah, and we will be looking at you.
Yeah, come take all of them down, right on up to Cope Brilliant. Let it be right between Cope Brilliant and Martin Luther King. That's enough banners. What's the church? What's Nance's church? Mount Carmel. And they all the way down. So then all the other ministers called me. I thought you didn't let these banisters. And I said, they wouldn't have been up here if I would have been in here.
Alderman from the 22nd.
Before we vote on this, Mr. Chairman, I want to be clear about the nonprofit and the $10. They pay a deposit, they don't pay a deposit,
Let me get Dave.
according to the way this was written, because I read it, no deposit.
I like.
And I don't have a problem with that.
That's
But-
the way the street department interpreted it.
That's the way it is. That's the way it's written.
All right, I'm
I
cool.
agree with you.
$10 per pole. and
But somebody, who was that said, didn't you say earlier you have to pay $50?
Somebody was reading it into there.
So,
No, they're not reading. What it says is you pay $100 for the permit, and you get $50 of that $100 back.
That's the way it's
But
written.
that's for regular businesses,
Right.
okay, and for profits. Then he put an exception in here for neighborhood organizations, and that's not
The original.
right.
Well, it's only neighborhood organizations.
501c3,
Right.
right.
If you're not, then you have to go with the standard.
Exactly.
So, just playing devil's advocate here. So you should almost put something in it, say something like the regular fee, because somebody could interpret this to say that in addition to the regular fee, 501c3 also has to pay an additional $10.
or it's an exception clause that makes it clear.
There you go. Yeah, if it's an exception clause, exactly.
If they don't pay, I'm cool with it. I just want clarity. That's all I wanted was clarity. So if you're saying that it's no deposit, and they just pay their $10 per pole every year, I'm fine. That's what it says, Dave? Is that your interpretation, Dave?
I didn't hear the question.
Do they pay a deposit or no deposit?
Only
nonprofits,
Yeah, the neighborhood
neighborhood
organizations, on the bottom two
tax
lines,
exempt people.
3 lines.
It's what you, it should be just an exception clause, except that if the,
It sounds
I
like
think this is an exception clause
Right.
without it being stated as such. I mean,
but I think that's what he's looking for, to make sure that it's clear that it's not an additional, in addition, that it's an exception. Don't we have some standard?
Sounds like what it's saying, neighborhood organizations that have 501c3s, this is how much they pay. And it looks like it's separate from the rest
How about
of
something
it.
that says notwithstanding paragraph, whatever it is, 1, 2, 3, the fee for neighborhood organizations that are qualified 501c3s, tax exempts. So if we take that out and make it separate,
I think we're
notwithstanding.
reading way too much into this. I mean, I can do whatever you want. I think it's doing that, notwithstanding clearly.
I'm not advocating for
by
changing
adding
language. I want to make sure that
the interpretation.
and
I mean,
the street department interprets it that way.
that's the key. I mean,
Okay,
but
because that's who has to administer.
you're right. You're right. So, I think
My suggestion is I can just put another line, no deposit shall be required.
Okay,
that clears it up. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's very clear.
right.
So in line 17, I would make amendment number 1, no deposit shall be required of such 501c3 organizations.
And no refund will be made.
That doesn't need to be stated.
That doesn't need, I mean, it's understood.
No deposit. Can you repeat that all?
No deposit of such 501c
No.
neighborhood organizations is required.
Let's take your copy.
That's in
You
addition
made that
to
too
line
much
17,
legalese.
is that right?
That'd be following.
It could be, yeah.
No deposit shall be required from 501, from said 501c3 tax exempt groups.
Is required. I'll give it just one more second of such 501c3 neighborhood organizations.
It says neighborhood
So-
organization, no problem. Shall
So the sentence would read, no deposit is required of such 501c3 neighborhood organization. I'm trying to make it as short as I can.
Yay for brevity.
Instead of neighborhood organization, don't you want to say
Doesn't
tax
line
exempt group?
15 through
Well, it says
17 say
501c3.
exactly that,
Okay.
Dave?
That's
But-
it.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, that's
Line 15 through 17 says exactly what the element from the 19.
Well, we're
No,
just
he
making it
added
extra
what-
clear.
The issue, we're just making sure the issue of deposit isn't silent or explicitly saying that it's not required.
Because it's not
Okay, so
just, if
where
it ever
it
would
says
go
no
to court,
deposit shall
that's
be
when
required,
something
where-
else
No
goes.
deposit is required of such 501c3
Neighborhood
Well,
organization.
where is that going to go?
Be the last sentence of the bill.
At the last says, no deposit shall be required of 501c3.
Of such 501c3 neighborhood organizations.
501c3.
neighborhood.
Okay, can I ask a question? Where is their deposit spoken to anyway? It is, okay, no person shall erect. The fee for the banner shall be $100 per pole, and permit shall be valid for up to 1 year. Where, okay,
The next sentence kind of gives you the, how it does it.
portion of the banner, yeah, probably would be, but it doesn't say about a deposit. So now we're bringing up a deposit that's not in here. I think that's why he didn't put it in here. We don't speak to a deposit in here.
In essence, what he is doing is the deposit. You pay $100 up front, 50 is non-refundable, 50 is refundable, and then his annual charge is $50 per banner.
No, what you're doing is, okay, I hear what you're saying. You're saying it's like a deposit. It's like like in apartments, if you got a carpet deposit, if you clean the part. Okay, so the fee for the banner, but it's not calling it a deposit. The fee for the banner shall be $100 per pole, and the permit shall be valid for up to 1 year. A portion of the banner permit fee, we're not calling it a deposit, is $50 will be refunded, but it's not called a deposit, is what I'm saying. Now we're going down later and calling it a deposit. See what I'm saying?
All right, then we won't put that sentence in. I'm fine. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way Dave read it originally, but I'm trying to placate the
I know,
alderman.
I understand, but I'm saying we don't, in your bill, going back to your bill, we don't talk about a deposit, okay?
But the alderman from the 22nd wanted to make
Do you
sure.
understand what?
Yeah, I understand.
So
but it's
now we're going to
implied.
introduce, I know, but now we're introducing the wording of deposit. If you go back and you're not in here, you say, where does that come from? This is what happens when people see ordinances down the road, okay? So unless we're going to say that up there and define that as a deposit, then we don't need to say no deposit is required.
It talks about deposit in
But we're not dealing with that one. Right.
Okay. So we're not going to do that. I'm just going to say we're not going to do the amendment,
Right.
and we'll just take the bill as it is.
It is, because you don't have to.
I,
Just asking for clarity. If the street department is fine with the way it's written and they administer it appropriately, if the legal guys say that's what it is, I'm fine with it.
I'm just trying to make everybody happy. Okay.
You stayed in,
You've been here how many years?
you stayed,
Is that possible?
not even for himself can he do that.
Well, let's get some happy pills going.
Okay,
What I'm
you're on
hearing,
tape with
We
that.
haven't made any changes at all on Board Bill 125.
Doesn't need it.
Right. They're all happy now with that one.
No, it still needs a period.
As it is.
It needs a period at the end of it.
Yes,
I would
agree
move-
with that. I agree. That's,
I'll give you a
agree.
new word for your dictionary today.
I agree, it does, period.
Scrivener's error.
Plenty of them.
Correct. Exactly. That could be
Are there
cleaned
any
up
other
without having to.
questions on Board Bill 125? If none, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to pass out of committee Board Bill 125,
Previous rule.
As is.
as is.
It's been moved and seconded that Board Bill 125 comes out as is. Call the roll.
Alderman
You said
Conway.
previous roll.
Back to previous rule.
Previous roll.
You don't
After all
have to
that
take it.
discussion,
Previous roll.
I'll tell you what,
Previous roll.
I just want,
I'll
Some new
recognize
banners.
it if the committee recognizes it.
Previous roll.
I can now override the committee.
Yes, you can, Chair.
All right, what we got next?
Board Bill 170.
Okay, we can vote no on this one.
Committee substitute has been killed.
125.
We don't have to worry about 125, because 125 has been passed.
This Alderman Boyd.
170 now, right?
Right.
Okay, this no all up on this
And I'm
side.
only gonna take 75 minutes on my bill.
Okay, gotta go.
Dan, can you take a seat right there for me? Board Bill 170 is a vacation of the horseshoe. Dan Shepard is here as a representative from MSD. This project goes back about 5 years, Dan? Okay, so it's been a long time coming. What happened was several years ago when MSD wanted to do this huge bond issue that we're paying dearly for every month, we had a lot of issues and problems in the infamous horseshoe, which has been prominently talked about on gangland. So we had a whole lot of issues in that area. The main issue was whenever we had a huge rainstorm, the property basements would back up. And MSD were paying a lot of money out for people to file claims. And the people were frustrated with all the claims. So I asked MSD, because all these detention ponds they were putting all over the city, one here, one here, one there, what if they just bought the folks out in the horseshoe and did something big over there, since everything was backing up anyway? They'll agree to the concept. We went out, had all these meetings, and talked to the property owners that would be affected. They were happy as all get out. They got bought out. They were cheerful. There probably was only one person that had an issue, I think, Dan. One property owner was an absentee property owner. But everybody who owned a home in there basically got a replacement home at no cost. They got all movers' expenses paid. I mean, it was a really, really great program that was put in place. So MSD bought everybody out, tore everything down in the horseshoe. And the horseshoe, for those who don't know, is basically a 5,500 block of 5,600 block of Hebert. Is that right? 56 and 57?
Right behind administration.
Yeah, 56, 5700 block of Hebert and Ashland, and then the bottom of it was like the 3300 block of Blackstone. So it was really like a pit. I mean, it was called a horseshoe because it's shaped like a horseshoe, but the terrain really went down. And that's why when it flooded real bad, cars over the years have floated in that particular area, and it was just a disaster. So we talked about this project, and MSD bought everybody out, they tore everything down, and now they're coming to do this big detention basin. This is what they call it, right? Dan can explain more about it, but it's been a project we've been working on for a long time. It impacts the 1st Ward, I think the 21st Ward.
21st Ward don't come.
Doesn't impact that.
No. This will be the bottom end of 8 phases.
What I'm saying is the problems were affecting the 22nd Ward, the 1st Ward. And this will hopefully alleviate, it won't do anything for the 21st Ward, it's just going to alleviate problems in the 1st and the 22nd, Dan?
Yeah, and this is just the start of it. There's much more pieces coming.
Okay, so go ahead, Dan, it's on you. Go ahead and tell them more technical stuff than I can talk about.
Well, there's a large combined sewer that runs down through the middle of the horseshoe that we purchased. And what we're doing is with this basin is trying to separate out the storm sewer. Because when it's not raining, nobody has problems. It's when the rain comes in. With a combined sewer, you have both storm and sanitary sewage flowing in the same pipe. That's throughout the city. Unfortunately, in this area, this is a low area, so when it rains, everything builds up here. When the pipe doesn't have capacity, it all came out of the sewers here and everything else and into people's basements. So we have everybody purchased. We've been working on the design of the basin. We've been going through the vacation process, trying to get the neighbors to all sign off on petitions. We've finally resolved all that. So we've asked to have all the streets and alleys vacated in this area that we purchased. Utilities are requesting that and everything so we can build our basin. I do have kind of a little sketch of what the basin is going to kind of look like. I didn't make enough copies for it, but I apologize for that.
Is it going to look like the one on Greer, between Greer and Ashland? Green space like that?
Yes, green space. We'll keep it maintained, we'll keep it mowed.
I already know what that looks like.
I think, John, I brought the project manager along. Well, it's in charge of the design of it, in case there's some questions I cannot answer. But I believe there's going to be like a walking trail across the top of the berm.
From a safety standpoint, if the water gets in there, you wouldn't want people possibly falling in. So we will have two fences. One is kind of more an architectural type of fence that's nice looking, but then we'll also have a fence up by the basin. There will be a road around the top, but that'll be primarily for our maintenance. A lot of the plantings that we're going to be using will take into account water building up in the detention basin, and so they'll be able to take periods of being inundated and receding water and stuff like that. So we're paying attention to those type of plantings.
Let me be clear, because we have this discussion. People will actually be able to walk through it. Or are you saying they won't?
They will.
Totally closed off.
Not through the basin.
Not through the basin.
Is there any portion of the lane that
Everybody
it
out
won't be?
here and put a retention pond there, but I don't know what these streets are.
I thought that we had conversation with the community that the way it will be designed, it would definitely be something that's attractive in the community, and it'll be something that the community will be proud of and they can kind of use, of course, when it's not overflowing, because we certainly have to be considerate of safety issues. But just closing the whole thing off with a fence straight across, that's the point we're on today?
The basin itself.
The basin itself.
There's going to be buffer ground around the basin.
That the community could access. That's what I'm asking. So what I'm saying is, okay, this is the basin, right? Dan, right in the middle?
Sorry.
This is the basin, right?
No.
Yeah, you see it shows the horseshoe of the street to be vacated, but then you see these little lines as contours because everything's going to fall down.
Right.
So you don't want anybody down in there.
Okay.
You don't want anybody down inside the basin.
Okay, we can have further discussion about the aesthetics of the basin another day, so we can.
As part of getting the design finalized is getting the streets and everything.
Right.
Because it's going to come for BPS to get the permit and everything.
Right. Okay.
This is strictly for the vacation of the streets and alleyways, is why we're here.
Right. We can have another community meeting and talk to the community about the design of what it would look like and all of that stuff later, right? Okay. And I would have to say, MSD did a really great job communicating with the residents over there.
I already have one in my ward.
And also, Dan, there was something that was supposed to happen across Barrett Brothers Park. That's part of all this whole process, right?
Yes, that's another phase of everything and part of it. Because I think the basin gets built first, correct me if I'm wrong, John.
The basin will be built first.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first package. It's a set of 8 packages that stretches from the city of St. Louis all the way through the village of Hillsdale, all the way up to Wellston.
Mm-hmm.
So starting by the church,
Mm-hmm.
going all the way up to Keinert and St. Louis and Darst. I mean, that's
Keeneland.
Heinlein. It'll keep on going up past Darst there. So this kind of gives you the idea of the 8 packages that we're talking about. And the detention basin's down here at the bottom.
Can we see one of those?
Sure, I only brought 5 copies, 6 copies, but that's the overall project, the 8 packages that are going to be done. And we're starting with package 1, and the red represents the vacation.
This,
So it's a small piece of what's to come in both the city and the county, but all this is contributory to this large combined sewer that doesn't have enough capacity.
And the dark contour lines are like the piping, is that what it is?
Trying to illustrate what the lines are
Right.
of the main trunk, if
Right,
you will.
right.
And this part here is where the Barrett Brothers Park is.
Okay,
Okay.
Where's Barrett?
right in here.
Okay.
Just line that comes with that.
So this is all, everything
This
they
is
show
good
is within
follow.
your ward then? 1,
Right.
2, 3, that's all within the 22nd ward?
Right.
But it's gonna impact the first ward because we're buying that Abner place and.
Yes, that's down through this.
Right,
correct.
right, and Arlington and all of that, and it's gonna extend
It's all
from,
the same system.
right,
all the
so
same system.
really it's extending from, really, Norwood, because you put a pump in at Norwood, right behind, the school, Lexington School, and then it goes all the way through that, and then down through Greer, between Greer and Ashland, and all of that, all the way through, and then it'll connect up to that, that's all part of it.
Well, like your Abner and everything is all downstream of this area
Right.
too, so, yeah,
Right.
it all connects together. And if you go way back in the history and everything else, there was like an old creek that came through here that was enclosed, and that's why, this is the low area, and that's why everything collects down in this area.
so are you gonna acquire all this property that's shaded?
No, those
No.
are just where we're doing some
Oh,
additional pipe work, or maybe
So
trying to
that
separate
they
the
don't-
storm, doing some separations, I believe, trying to take out some of the storm from the combined system and make that flow go to the basin as well.
So can I ask a question? So so over on Greer, you just got that green space. It's just the basin, okay? And really, nobody's supposed to be in there, and it's the fence, right? Because nobody's supposed to be there because if it would ever be a flash flood, you could drown or whatever.
Correct, safety.
So that's what. So I'm trying to figure out how are you going to do that differently there, because the whole point of the basin is that, and if water comes at a quick rate, you can't be in there because you cannot get out sometimes. So where would you have green space for the, unless you're going to build something over bridges or something like that, where would it be used for the public?
The only
Because
thing
I want to get that too when you get there. So I'm asking for very.
Well, and the reason I said that, Dan, is like the Alderwoman says, if you go by Abner, so it's fenced in, but you still have streets that you can walk. So you can walk around the basin
Right.
because there are public streets around
Right.
there. So if you did this basin and you kept all the green space, which was some initial conversation that we had, I don't see why you couldn't walk around it.
Just fence around the height of the basin, wherever,
Well, so
wasn't-
where it's up like there, like
Yeah.
on a
There'll be
street.
two sets of fence, one inside the maintenance path, or could
Right.
be utilized as a walking path as well, because then if you connect to the street, the cul-de-sac of the apartments, that gets you over to the park too, so it all kind of ties together that way. Except, I don't know if that apartments is gated or not, right there, the Goodfellow Apartments.
It should be coming back through, I don't know, people cut through there, but I would
So there's
think
two
it
sets of
is.
fence. We have one set is gonna be on our property line going around to keep, people.
Right.
And then we have the fence inside the basin as well to keep people safe, that they won't get in for safety purposes, so they won't be in the basin.
I think we can work out something, but we'll talk about it later.
Yes, and like I said, we have to come back in for.
Don't put nothing up there you're not willing to come right over here. So remember that. When I see Jeffrey Boyd's, when you have it, I'm gonna get it.
Right? The one you're discussing, I guess it's down there by that grade school around Arlington Avenue, where you got that basin there.
Yeah,
Yes,
behind,
right, that's
gun
between
lot.
Greer and Ashland.
Right. Now, there's a fence around there,
Right.
right, along with the streets that are on the outside of that perimeter.
Well, actually, it's two. There's one there, then there's Abner. So there's one at Simple, and, what's
Like
that?
two fences?
It's at Ashland and
See right there
Simple,
where
then
we
there's Ashland and Abner, right?
Well, they're buying Abner out right now. Right. There's one right behind the alley between Union. It doesn't.
Right.
They don't have the buildings on Union, but it
Right.
starts right behind Union and it
Right.
goes between Ashland and Greer, and they're buying that part of Abner and to Arlington all the way out. That's what they're buying now. So that will all be gone, and it will be just.
What I'm trying to make is, it's two fences, so if you go in there, if somebody drowns, they gotta make an effort to jump two fences to get in there. I mean, it's not
If they're in
weird.
between the two fences, you're not in trouble getting around.
But if you go below the other one, yes.
Okay.
Right.
So there is security, where nobody can just walk or fall in, or a
Right.
child,
And that's
or
what the
riding
fence
a
just
bike.
inside the maintenance path around is there for, to keep people out.
And
of
they
the actual
maintain it
basin
really
itself.
well. It's kept cut really well.
All right, that's all I have.
And then the outside fence is just our property fence to
Right.
distinguish what's MSD property, what's the neighbors, to try to keep people out of that
Yeah,
area.
you're right. You have to make a strong effort to really get down there in the pond.
Yes.
That's all I got.
Well, have you had any public meetings?
Oh, yeah,
People in
plenty
that
of them.
area?
They're happy, I'm telling you. They're happy, especially the church.
Yes, we built 2 new parking lots for the church.
They got a heck of a deal.
That's
Well,
what
the
they.
horseshoe's gone, that was a death trap.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're doing that.
It was
So
like Burger King.
Good
when I put
God.
the rest of my strip, when I put the rest of my shopping.
Are there
center
any
right
other
there.
questions on Board Bill 170?
I move we pass Board Bill 170 out of committee with due pass
Second.
recommendation.
Previous roll.
What else have we got?
Lunch, you guys?
Say, that should have been there.